Hello everybody, welcome to a very special, this is an episode 85, of course it is, of the Contest Realm podcast, and it kind of feels like we are starting to, we are definitely closing a book on maybe the Realm element to the podcast, and this is going to be a bit of well, it's going to be a bit of very kind of like sad ending, but a bittersweet and also dissection and kind of, yeah, just a nice end. We're going to be talking about Marvel Realm of Champions. And as always, I'm joined with Dan of Frontline MCOC, who you can find at www.frontlinemcoc.home.blog for all your Marvel Contest of Champions news, crystal trackers, guides, and all information about what's going on in the community, as well on Twitter under the handle at Frontline MCOC. Dan, the end of Realm.
It is. And I wish I could say it was a surprise. Unfortunately, I think we both saw this coming. Definitely a sad day. I saw a lot of people cheering this announcement, which made me sad.
Yeah.
Because there were people that loved the game. There was a lot of stuff I did like about the game, while still acknowledging its flaws, which we're probably gonna pick apart pretty hard in the next few minutes. But it's a tough one. They took a big swing, and unfortunately, it was a miss.
Yeah. Let's go back. Let's rewind the clock back to 2019. Were you at New York Comic Con?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were both
New
there.
York Comic Con. We were both there. That's where we actually met.
That is, and then this is like the idea of the podcast sort of came up because we
yes,
it made sense because we want to do like topical coverage, news, information, as well as anything going on with the community to put it into a show. This was the birthplace, and it's definitely something in the future. I think we might have to sit down and kind of discuss maybe a change of name with it, or maybe it just might continue on. I don't know, but it's definitely seeing that. What we thought to be various different houses and not really the pitch, because we weren't really pitched what the game would look like. It was an idea, wasn't it, that we were pitched in the interim?
Yeah, I mean, they had this whole what would you? It was like a Hulk throne room cave where you could go and check out like the different houses and pledge to the houses. And at that point, I thought the game was going to be much more like open world, like you pick a faction that you stay true to the entire time, and maybe that's what it was at that time in development, but I think when we talk about the messaging of the game, it seems like they were never either able or willing to say what the game actually was, and because of that, that really messed up expectations for the game, because there was either a lot of speculation or there was certainly people who thought it was going to be like MCOC2, which it never intended to be. But was it open world? Was it a MOBA? Was it a brawler? They kept saying it's something new, but I don't think it was something new.
No, exactly. I think it's one of these things where Gabe of Wazera had these amazing ideas, and definitely I'm just going to throw up on screen one image, which if you see on YouTube, then you know exactly what it is, and it's the image of a team of Guillotine, Silver Warrior, and what seems to be some sort of Egyptian inspired Spider-Man going up against one singular massive Hulk, which kind of gives me the idea of this is some sort of dungeon thing. You've got symbiotes assisting you in some sort of element, and I don't know if maybe one of the first things was this was meant to be a MOBA, which allows it to look a bit like League of Legends. And I'm thinking, you think to yourself, right, well, the marketplace already has Marvel Super War at the time. Is this a right fit? Now, at this time, we had no idea. This is a very early image of what I think the pitch was. But then if I was back in early development and going, oh, okay, so they're building a MOBA, I probably would have said, I don't think this is the right time for this type of game. And with like, you know, in the last year that we've seen the likes of Marvel Future Revolution, regardless of people's thoughts of Marvel Future Revolution, you can't deny that it had a lot of eyes on it and a lot of downloads, a lot of presence and a lot of interest in a very early stage. And is this one of these cases, Dan, of going like the wrong type of game genre at the wrong time?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to answer that question because I don't think they were able to get the game to perform well within the genre that it was.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's hard to know, was it the wrong genre or that they just couldn't get it right? Because I don't think they got it right. And they unfortunately they weren't close when it came to the player experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot about where, you know, MCOC has gone wrong at times and what they need to fix, but they have a very strong core game, which is why, you know, 7 years in, it's still a top revenue producer for the company. And, you know, yes, they need to get their game engine fixed, but in reality, you know, the game as of right now shows no signs of slowing down, where, you know, Realm was unfortunately flawed at its core. And, you know, the core of the game was supposed to be like this competitive 3v3 PvP mode, and they could never get matchmaking right from the start. And no matter how many times they tweaked it, it never really felt like it got any better. Was that a player load issue or not? I don't know that we'll ever know. But unfortunately, because the matchmaking was so horrible, and that was the core of the game, especially at launch, it was very easy for you to jump in, have one bad experience, say this game is not good, and leave. Like, it was, MCOC is an easy game for a casual to get into, right? Because like you could be like, oh, hazard shift on lane 9 of tier 1 Alliance War is broken right now. But if you're downloading the game, you don't care about that. You just got to learn to tap and swipe, and none of that other stuff, you know, is a problem for you. Whereas other players and matchmaking and this larger ecosystem were immediately a problem in Realm. And I think that really put a lot of people off.
Yeah, because we had the issue like very early on. When were we doing... Because I did beta from, I think it was July when it was available. I did like VPN to... I think the Philippines in order to kind of to play the game.
Yes.
The biggest issue that I really saw with it, and like it, and I'll go back to kind of like general kind of thoughts, and we'll go back to like the scheme of the show in a second. But the biggest problem is when you early pick up this game is what is there to do, and the biggest thing that we saw was that there was not a lot to do bar the arena conquest. And even when the game went to launch in the December months, there was still nothing of substantial story aspect, the way that Marvel Contest of Champions has that kind of, okay, well, if some areas are trash and I don't want to go into them today because the AI is bad, the interaction's bad, I just don't want to overthink, then you've got somewhere else to go. I guess that's the same thing with Marvel Contest. If I don't want to do story mode, I'll go and do incursions. If I don't want to do incursions, I'll do story mode. If I don't want to do any of those two, I'll do arena. If I don't want to do any of those, I'll do the side quest. And you've got those options to go and do other things. But Realm had nothing else of great substantial elements to go and do. And as they were adding stuff in, I just don't think they really got the idea of, well, people aren't able to progress upwards, and because they're unable to progress upwards, the gear system is becoming quite imbalanced to the way that, say, people are able just to stomp on others because the matchmaking is bad, and therefore we're putting off people to come back in. There's all these little elements that are just kind of adding into a big cataclysmic failure. But we'll talk about the gearing system, matchmaking, and all that stuff in a minute. Let's try and end with it, not end, but let's just kind of focus on with the end of the game. What did you like about the game, Dan?
Well, I liked the story, especially once they incorporated it into the progression. You know, that was something that I really think should have been there at launch, but when they added it later, it was quite nice because the story was the best part. And I think I put on Twitter, like, Gabe should turn this into a graphic novel because it's a great story.
It is.
Like I think the story and the art were A+. They just were never able to convert that creativity into a fun game that was really worth spending a lot of time in, and generated the income they needed to support it. I think they did do some cool stuff in game, like later on. I did like acquiring new champions. That was fun. I do think once they rolled out some of the additions to like the cosmetics of gearing, where you could actually get your character to look the way you wanted them to look, I
Yeah.
like that. And I think they did like this Scar boss battle, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. And but I think the best experiences in Realm I had were when you and I and a third person would get on comms and live stream, and like have that teamwork aspect to it. Like I thought that was Realm
Yeah.
at its best. But I think that goes back to like why the game couldn't get casual players. It's like if you were randomly matching, you could get someone who didn't understand how to play the game, someone who just ran right at the boss. You could get a couple bots. It'd be you and two bots versus a team of three on comms, and you get slaughtered. So it's like you really had to put in a lot of work
Yeah.
to make the game fun, and a lot of work involving other people. I think that was the trick. It was not the PvP ended up having like no casual entry point to it, and I think that really, really hurt the game, and was probably like, we're going to talk about gearing and all that stuff, but I think this turned a lot of people off before we even got to the gearing issue.
Yeah, this is the same thing with Marvel Future Revolution, which they're tuning down when it comes to say how powerful the gear is in certain elements of PvP, and how PvP is still meant to be like PvP is like at the heart of this game, but when the PvP isn't fair or balanced, it becomes that point of going, oh well, if this is not going to be fun, or I'm not going to have an even fair battlefield, then what is the point of me actually kind of bothering to play in it? And I liked the exactly the same thing as what we said, like the comms and the kind of the camaraderie, which is very different from Marvel Contest, which is in actuality mainly a solo-based experience, apart from incursions. And we'll have to see like how the solo competitive mode really works. But the difference is you'll be done in a fight within 5 minutes in Marvel Realm, which I love because I'm all about quick pace, fun, and just intense battles, as opposed to Marvel Contest, which requires you to overly think. The champions, yeah, I love the new ones coming in, but then just a slow integrating of them kind of like starts slowing down the pace, quickness, and enjoyment that we have with Marvel Contest.
I mean, because they added Super Soldier at launch, right? Like, so like the first month, like at least you had like the hunt for Super Soldier, right? You want to acquire him and rank him up. But after that, it's funny, like when we talk about contests and say like, oh, I wish they'd take a month or two off from releasing champions, and then you saw what Realm was on a month that they didn't release a champion, you're like, oh no,
yeah,
maybe that's a bad idea, because when there wasn't a champion to chase and there wasn't sort of a goal outside of I want to raise my battle rating because whatever, like there was nothing to do.
Yeah. That is one of the things that Marvel Future Revolution, I think, are suffering with. If they're going 4 months without putting in a new champion, I mean, it should be a case if you want people to be still invested in kind of collecting, because that's the model that I can't remember. Somebody was talking about I think it was DNA 3000 was talking about the way that mobile games are pitched to Asian markets as opposed to Western audiences, where from an Asian interest perspective, they want to be able to spend. They want to spend on new things, grab new champions, new things like that, and that's kind of like a mindset that a lot of Marvel games, not Marvel games, a lot of kind of games pitch to. That's why I think that anime games, manga games are more popular, because lots of new heroes, champions, whatever, are flushed into the game for people to be like, right, I'll spend on this, grab this, grab this, grab this. And that's why trying to get this into, which is it's like the League of Legends, trying to pitch that globally is a difficult one if you're not having something, as you said, you're chasing something. If you're not chasing something, you're not interested in something. And that's the great thing about contests as opposed to Realm was we're constantly, I mean, I'm chasing targets this month. I've like variant 8 and 7.2. The same thing with you. You're doing 7.2. You're chasing something that's there. Not to say you should do every bit of content in the first month, but again, it goes back to that idea, that premise of chasing something and chasing a goal, which sadly the game kind of like after the first 2 to 3 months just started going down and down.
I mean, that's like the core of any game, right? Like there's got to be a goal. Like it may not be the final goal. It could be a diversion, a side quest, but if you can't look at it and say there's something I want to accomplish in this game today, you're probably not going to pick it up.
No, that's just the killer. I mean, one of many kind of things that kind of killed off the game, which we'll go on a bit more in great detail. The gearing system, I think, was it started off really bad because you're getting these kind of, you're hoping to get the first 4-star piece of gear, and Seaton dropping $1,000 to get a 4-star piece of gear, and then going, oh, hang on a minute, I can't specify what the stats of this gear is. This is not exactly what I was hoping for from this game. Because some of these stats, before we had the ability, well, I really kind of ducked out of the game. I don't know if we were able to re-roll any kind of stats, any kind of great detail.
No, I don't remember them ever doing anything like that.
No, that's the big problem with games like this, especially when you go into PvP. If you want something that's got attack-orientated stats, you're essentially having to spend more money to get that particular bonus, which is just so...
Yeah, or you got the wrong synergy, and it just didn't. It was, there was just too many needles to thread.
Yeah,
with the gear, and then they went through, like, they adjusted the stats and they changed things a couple times, but then I think it just snowballed on them because then you had to relearn the gear system and the stats compressed, and it was confusing. It's like that probably alienated people who did like the old gear system.
Yeah.
And maybe they looked at it sort of like a 12.0, like, oh, well, we need to do this to survive and bring new people in. But I don't know. They just they never got close with the gear, although the gear looked really cool. And there was, like, especially with the weapons, like, particularly with someone like Storm, where it's like, okay, she's going to have a lightning staff and an ice staff and a wind flail, and they all have different functionality. Like, there was a reason to equip the different weapons, and it would change your playstyle. So that part was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was really hard to build up a character the way you wanted from a stats perspective the whole time, and certainly from a look perspective in the early part of the game, which I think was unfortunate because it's, like, I think we had the, what was the joke? It was the spare parts Iron Man running around,
Definitely from a looks perspective, you want as well your champions to look good, and that's like,
right, yeah.
How did it took really to the summer to get any kind of like transmog type system, and that was a summer 2021, and I think even like now, the game's demise, it's a case we got a transmog system that's kind of there. But then you look at other games where, I don't want to bring up Marvel Future Revolution, it's just different. Either there's been a small budget that's been available to Kabam to build this particular game, because they had to like hire new staff for it. There's just that common misconception of going, oh well, this is just a team that was like grabbed from contest to bring over to Realm, and that's simply not the case. There's overlap with community managers, and I think obviously story writers, maybe like a producer, just to say like, okay, well, this is how you've got to like be building it, but it's nothing that's kind of saying, look, the core element of things that would be detrimental to contest would be quest designers, game engineers, and champion designers. And those weren't taken from one game to the other, because they got a budget that they've got to stick to with it.
Right.
So
and the games were run on different engines, from what I understand.
And that's just the thing. Talking about game engine, I found better response playing Marvel Realm of Champions than I did with Contest. Like when I clicked on things or I swiped on things, it did stuff. Whereas
yeah, well, I mean, it's built on newer tech.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. I think another thing that gets brought up, it kind of relates to like the engine or just the look of the game. Like I've seen a lot of people say like, "Oh, the game didn't look that good." Like the game looked amazing on iPad. It did not look great on my iPhone, and I very rarely played it on the phone. And I think that's another thing that really hurt the game was that we've got these phones like with us 24/7, and most people, that even that don't have an iPad or a tablet, and those that do, you don't carry it everywhere. You don't take it out of the house with you, generally. So I think that having a game that really performed better and was optimized for a tablet really just shrunk the overall market, because you were having a drastically different experience in the game if you were playing it on a tablet versus a phone.
Yeah, and I've got it now. If you're watching on YouTube, I've been playing a few rounds with the iPhone 7 Plus. But the battery life that it takes up, that's an issue. And even though that's sizing wise, it's very difficult. And I think that is just a case of going for any community person that was from Contest coming over to Realm would definitely notice kind of like, okay, well, I'm literally having to like squint to see where my hero is and the sizing. I'd have to kind of bring the device right close to my face to kind of know where it is. And the difference is with a tablet, it just kind of brings into that you have better scope of the battlefield that you're going to be fighting on.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, you can look at stuff like the way that Marvel Future Revolution is done. I mean, yes, that's an open world game versus this, but it's just a case of like what you see from a champion perspective. Would it have been easier to see like a bigger hero on the screen, so you kind of feel like, because you're customizing and you're making your own, but you can't see what is your own when you're on there. So
right,
like, oh, okay. The matchmaking was a big issue. Whether or not this was a case of how Kabam created a fair-based system of matchups based on gear, based on level, based on rank, based on, I think as well, your progression, it just didn't match up to fairly pair you with enemies. And that made a game that's predominantly PvP, especially PvP at the start, when loads of eyes were on this game for what was the first month of December, because it went global. As soon as you've got those elements of, oh, hang on a minute, I've just been beaten up by somebody that's obviously with better gear, better stats overall, why do I want to continue on with this, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There is either that bit of matchmaking, you'd get matched with a person that appeared to be intentionally trying to tank the game, which felt really bad. Like there was just, unfortunately, with random matchmaking, there was just a too much of a chance to feel bad about what happened in the game, and it's like, okay, well, if I'm getting frustrated after a couple of these, like this is my perception of the game, and I'm gonna not pick this up again, and I think a lot of that happened in the first month, and it just kind of seems like there was actually like strategy to it, but you like really needed to again have other people on comms. It's like, okay, I'm gonna release my special 2, which is going to root them in place, and then you can hit your special 3, and we're going to knock them out. And that like felt really good, but you don't get those interactions just jumping in with randoms.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look back and try and find an interaction with a Kabam dev that I had a long time ago. I don't know if the Kabam dev is kind of gone. I don't know where it is, but I Yeah, I'm just trying to find some sort of interaction I've had where I basically gave a little bit of feedback to a Kabam dev, and I didn't really get the correct answer I wanted. I think it was in line with things like the way that it's done with matchmaking, how it finds things, and I just didn't get the response that I was hoping for from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem when you're having that level of feedback, or trying to have a level of feedback with a developer and getting an idea of like, look, how's the matchmaking done? And they're like, it's fine. Well, it's not quite clearly fine if there's legitimate concern. And I think that was one of the nail in the coffins for me that made me kind of think, right, okay, this is in what was meant to be a CCP type interaction, and you're not taking this seriously. It becomes a problem for my interest with it. So difference with it, I don't say Kabam are better on the Marvel Contest Champions with kind of responding back to issues and getting stuff done. It's just a case of like, well, look, if I'm bringing to the table exactly where you need to be improving your game ongoing, are you going to listen? Are you not? What are you going to do? How are you going to save your game?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and I always did feel that disconnect, like with the matchmaking. Like either they thought it was fine, or they just, I don't know, did they think it was fine? Could they just not figure it out? Like sometimes there's that disconnect between like the tech side of it, like this is performing the way we intended, versus like the actual perception of something out there. It's like, okay, well, you think it's fine, but too many of the players don't think it's fine, so that's a problem, whether or not whether or not it's performing according to specs. If it's upsetting so many of the players that they're dropping the game, like that, you need to take another look at that.
Yeah. And what is it taking me now? I've just thought I'd do like a quick kind of like game of it, just see like, okay, well, how long did it take me? I think it's taking a good point of like 3 or 4 minutes just to kind of get a game. Granted, it's going to be kind of gone, but it looks like now they've actually finally added in some bots. So these kind of like bots at any kind of level, which is weird and good. But bots seem to be a bit of a problem in the beginning in any case, because they were just kind of they're stupid, and that was one of the key elements that kind of like we were kind of like talking about a while ago, where we're like, well, we need bots, that's one thing, but as well,
right,
bots do be stupid, and that's an issue.
It's interesting because, like, I don't know, like maybe I'm just looking at this a little too simple, but it's like, if you know the bots aren't that smart, like, and you underpower the bots, like you're having a double problem, right?
Yeah.
Like at least give the bots a little extra to make up for their lack of strategy and intelligence, so that they at least like serve a purpose. Or I always felt like, like if I would jump in as a solo player, it's like I would, maybe I'd get 2 bots, but it's like, you'd see the matchmaker and he's like, oh, I've got 1 real person on the end. Oh, there's 2 real people on the other end. And then it would fill with 3 bots. And it's like, hey, like, all right, if it's 1 real person versus 1 real person,
yeah,
and we've each got 2 bots, okay, that's kind of fair, but it's like, why 2 on 1?
Yeah.
That's mean.
And even when the these elements as well of kind of going, right, well, we've got this bot has got this gear. That was one of them. That's the thing that I did to criticize them. How come that the bots, when a lot of the time you are one with the 2 bots, the bots that are with you have underpowered gear compared with the opponents that we're going up against? I think that was what I kind of pointed out, and I think the response was definitely like not one of like, well, what's the point of a bots on your team on an equal level if bots are unable to have the same type of gear levels and gear potency as anyone else that's going to be on that team from real players when you go up against 3?
Right. And it was, it's interesting, like when they finally added in some of the other elements where it was like I think it was like you would pick two players from your actual team, and they would be bots versus
Yeah.
one, and it's like or whatever. Think it. I think that was a. I'm trying to remember which one that was. Was that PvP or PvE? But that was the one where like the opponent's bots were basically like wrecking balls.
Yeah.
It was like, and that was kind of like the last thing that they launched, and it was like, guys, like what are we doing here? It was just like the degrees of difficulty. Maybe they're just really difficult to line up in this game, but it's like there weren't a lot of times where you'd really get close and walk away from a game and it was like, okay, this was a really good back and forth. Even though we lost, it didn't feel cheap.
Yeah.
Or it's like, all right, yep, like they were just better than us, but it wasn't like we got rolled. And that's really what you want. Like you want even when you lose, you have to feel like it was a fair fight, and we never quite got there, other than in like some really rare situations where it was like our defined team versus someone else's defined team, and it kind of matched up. But there was a lot of stuff early on you could do to like screw with the matchmaker, where it's like, okay, like one person put in a really low rated champion and will carry you and stuff like that. It was just, there's a lot of exploit's not quite the right word for it, but there was some loopholes there that could really mess up the matchmaker.
Yeah, I do think at times, going back to like the main subject of like I'll go back to like a point of our podcast is with this game, when Marvel Contest of Champions excelled, and I don't know if this is the current times as they are. Is it always worth going too complex with a game too early based on what then happens henceforth? Like the way that with this game it was, okay, well now you've got synergize this, synergize that, or you've got this, you've got that. A lot of the times having that simplistic, just going PvP at one another, like going at one another, like Contest was, and then kind of adapting or kind of expanding from there, kind of then make it more complex as time goes on. I definitely feel at times I'm looking like, well, if I want a completely balanced kind of brawler game, then we can do that. And then it's just then, right, well, after that it's like, oh, where are we going with this then? So this is where we're going with it. It's like, oh, really? God.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like, I feel like especially like once you start bringing your interactions with in the game with like more players, like that's where things really get complicated. It's not really so much like definitely like game modes, because I mean when you think about like MCOC, like that started off as like a very bare bones game, and you think of like how Arena was in the old days, no alliances and bases coming soon.
Yeah.
And it's just it's very different, but it created it created a strong starting point for them to build on it. And I don't think these with Realm, they were never able to get that that starting point, which really unfortunate, and it was sort of
Oh, Dan, are you there? Hello?
what they thought the game was going to be, and a lot of the MCOC community was against them because of that.
Yeah. You cut out for a moment there.
Sorry.
No, I think it was probably me, to be honest. I was kind of saying stuff, and then it's like I didn't see my pulsate on my thing say anything. But yeah, right. I am a little bit sad though that we've lost some what could potentially be some massive houses as well. The way that Gabriel Rosera had these ideas. I even read that he wanted to plan to do a guillotine house, or a house of guillotine or something, which I think we saw some like artwork of, like Latvian, is it Latvian, whatever it is, kind of imagery and stuff, and I was like, oh, is this going to be the daughter of Dr. Doom or Cynthia Von Doom, or is it going to be something else, or just unknown? But there were so many things of kind of like, no, there was the Lost Mercs for gold, area, which could be like Massacre, Pirate Deadpool plays. The Forest Guardians we got. There was the Ultron Network, which I don't know if that was meant to be Viv Vision and stuff like that.
Yeah, that probably. I mean, we saw her tease, so I imagine she would have been the playable. It would have been like a customizable Vision with Ultron as the Baron.
Yeah, Clan of Wolverine, which is something I was really looking forward to, and that probably would have been the only time but the time I'd probably want to come back. Symbiote Empire. That would have been pretty. I don't know if that would. It's got like a Venom kind of thing, so maybe it would be something associated with symbiotes in the future. I think that's really it. There was some kind of like subzones of it, but whether or not they could be expanded into other places. But that's always the big sad with it. Like there were some great ideas. I know that Gabe has said something about maybe the Barons coming into contest, which makes sense for stuff like if the Barons were champions, like Madam Web, oh god, I can't remember, like it's not the immortal one, Doctor Strange, what is it called?
The ancient one.
Ancient one,
yeah.
Sorcerer, ancient one, Doctor Strange. I'd love that. There's also like, Shogun Wolverine's a bit of an iffy one for me to be bringing into the game, because it's kind of like an Old Man Logan type thing, but a different narrative to it.
Yeah.
Scar makes sense.
Scar makes a lot of sense. I think the Peggy Carter super soldier idea, I think that would be very popular.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people want to see that.
Yeah. So there's definitely I definitely believe there's this kind of feels like, from a story arc and being associated with the community, it should have a story within it. Like, I don't think it's fair to and it's. I'm sure people will say no, we don't need any association with it. But I think I think it's good to close a book. Like this book was opened for Battle World as an alternate dimension, and then it needs its time to close its book and close its doors. And I think that having some Barons in some sort of capacity would be good to kind of, again, have a bit of closure for the player base. To say like, okay,
I'd like to see that, especially where they're trying to bring some Realm players into contest, and honestly, like, even if you don't like the Realm characters simply because they're from Realm, like, there's some good characters. Like, they're all useful. They're great designs. They're good to look at. So, and it's not like Kabam doesn't put in originals anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, and the originals are pretty popular. So, yeah, I'm all for. I would say, Scar and Peggy Carter. I would love to see in the game.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Yeah, it's one of these this game ending is very bittersweet for us both as well. We've got fond memories. I'm going to leave, what is Rich's Revolution, Rich's Realm, whatever, and I'm still probably going to change that channel to something else. It does kind of, like, it's sad to say goodbye to something that I had a lot of fun with, but I think this is definitely a wake-up call for Kabam about the type of games they put out there, about testing the market, and also, like, the thing is, it's a great idea, and I'm sure the thing is, the difference with Marvel and Marvel Games is, if you go up to Marvel Games and say, hey, I want to make a game for you, they'll probably go, hey, that's fine, pay us the license fee and you have at it, and we'll kind of occasionally go, here's how these characters should be done. That's fine, because they don't have to do anything, and here's some money. I'm going to assume that's how it happens. I could be completely wrong, but it does feel to me like that is the case, because you could literally churn out Marvel games and the market may go, oh, we're not interested. Well, that's fine. Marvel still make the money on the license fee, which still probably costs a lot of money per month, per year, in order to finance. So that's going to be another kind of key factor to stuff. So it's, I mean, I still want Kabam to think about making more Marvel games, but maybe kind of thinking about something a bit different than what they put out, and especially look at Marvel Super War. It's still going now versus Marvel Realm, which has a little bit more depth to it, but is, that's ultimately gone.
Yeah.
Dan, integrated accounts. This is something me and you talked about right at the beginning of the game, going like, right, well, look, if you give people incentive, and I know people will go, oh, we're not interested of playing Marvel Realm, and that's fine. But if you were given a little incentive to go as a Kabam account holder, which we all are, what if you were able to go and play a little bit of Realm, which gave you a little bit of something like units, revives, which the revives are health potions in Marvel Realm of Champions, and bring something of that over to the other game. So you're basically stimulating your Kabam account by playing multiple Kabam games. And I have no idea why Kabam didn't do that, and only when the game is at its demise, offering something of that to players.
I think they intended to, and my guess is that the game was so poorly received by a very vocal portion of the MCOC community that they decided they really had to back off and let it stand on its own. And I mean, you had what did Seaton quit the game day one?
Yeah.
And I mean, how many people? That was probably the most viewed Realm video that was ever put out.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that that when you talk about dead on arrival and nail in the coffin, like I think they looked at that and they were like, all right, like this isn't gonna work as far as bringing too many people over. So we're gonna have to build it up on its own, and it'll be its own thing, and that'll be fine. But yeah, I just think there was too much negativity.
Yeah.
And it was probably more from like you look at it both ways. Like it would have helped Realm, but they couldn't risk damaging contests to do it.
Yeah.
Like that's a business decision.
Yeah, that's the sad thing about content creation and kind of like having a voice out there. No kind of like great criticism to the people out there, but that's the thing is like, look, if Kabam aren't going to build the game well enough, or they haven't really thought about stuff and they're kind of making it up as they go along, which is a very Kabam-ism type thing, and then you've got people with greater audiences and and I hate using this word influence, but you can definitely see where there's so many factors coming together with negativity to just kind of push down this game, which doesn't help. It's kind of like, well, we can't bridge over from one game to the other, and it kind of limits the opportunities that Kabam have to financially support that game, and it's just then the bridge just collapse on what is like flimsy structure, which is very sad. I mean, it's just, as I said, it's weird to kind of go, there's a game in message at the moment saying, please take a moment to register your account to a Kabam ID to continue your adventures in Marvel Contest of Champions after Marvel Realm of Champions comes to a close. All summoners who join MCOC are already playing will receive an adjustment package based on their progress and investment in Marvel Realm of Champions. To receive this gift, you must link both your MCOC and Marvel Realm accounts to the same Kabam ID by January 27th, which, Dan, we must do. Checking your in-game mail for more details about Marvel Realm of Champions coming to an end, and follow the link below to learn how to set up your Kabam ID. Now, I think I've got that. I need to go through the process and kind of see what kind of freebies I get. We get on April 8th in MCOC. So it's going to be interesting to see like what that is indeed going to be. Now, I didn't spend any money in Marvel Realm, so it will be interesting to see what I will get from that, and I'll probably do a video on the main channel, this channel, about that, because it's going to be relatively interesting. But I just feel that's a missed opportunity, regardless if, I say, people don't like to play, we wouldn't like to play Marvel Realm, but imagine if you just had to play 10 games, like, okay, I'll play 10 games of Marvel Realm, and in one sitting, and that 1 month, that for 1 month will give you something like, I don't know, 200 units in your contest account. That would just be kind of like a great incentive to make you kind of slowly want to play a bit more.
Yeah,
but it's just thing that we're going to come back to is it's sad to see them the game go in any case, because there's fond memories. There's us kind of like battling hard to get to a new progression tier. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like a good kind of thing. Go, oh, let's push the defender from warrior. Let's kind of push new champions upwards further. Let's do some strategies. Let's have some really fun winning moments, which those streams still exist and they're on the second channel, but it's just just sad to see any kind of Marvel game.
Yeah, it is sad. I had some, fun times. My son really liked the game. He liked picking out different costumes for Spider-Man and Hulk and Iron Man, and he really liked, he really loved the "Make Marvel Mine" tagline. He was super into that. The other sad part is the people put a lot of work into this. Did it end up working out? No, not really, obviously. But people are gonna be changing jobs because of this, put into different roles, or potentially their position doesn't exist anymore. So there's a real human impact when these things don't go right. So you gotta kind of remember that that first.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just the thing with a lot of these. You can be, and the thing is, I know again people will kind of meme and laugh about this not succeeding, but there's still people that worked hard, and that's the thing about when I've seen a lot more people positive about saying, look, wasn't really a game for me. Still sad to see it go, and I think a lot of people understand the effort and work that goes into games. The biggest thing that can be so upsetting is when you have a passion project and you work so hard on it and it just doesn't land. Like when for me, like if I've created a video and I spent so many hours into it and it comes out and not many people are interested in or watch it, or it's with other people. They've created a piece of art and they finish the piece of art, but someone would come up to go, that looks terrible. And many people predominantly say it's a terrible piece of art, but you're passionately into something. You've written a book, but there's kind of mistakes with it. There's a big error. There's a big issue. Passion and creativity can just be stomped on you. And that's why I'm proud of Gabe for putting that tweet out to say, I'm incredibly proud of the work that I did on this because this was a passion piece. And I know there will be some people that kind of, again, would go, well, this is just too much of a specific story that's created around one person's idea. But then that's the same thing with any person that takes up a comic book and writes a new story arc. They do exactly the same. And we've had that for years. So, yeah. Feel for them all. Dan, any kind of closing thoughts you have?
No, I think that's about it, Rich. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think this is us definitely saying we enjoyed the game, but there were fundamental things that went wrong. Sad to see it go, but hopefully Kabam can do another game in the future, and Marvel game that is, and see what happens. As well, we have to see how Mirrorverse does to see whether or not Kabam have a track record with this. But new CEO, Dan, means fresh opportunities for improvement, hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's it's interesting timing on that when you announce a game is ending that hasn't been out that long, and then you appoint a new CEO a few days later.
Yeah,
we're never gonna know the answer there, but I think that and the fact that MCOC's been going through some problems, particularly the game engine level, real that's a systemic risk. This isn't a node broke or a champion's bug. The game engine, that again, I'm just speculating here, but you would think that's a decision that goes to the highest level of the company.
Yeah.
Do we replace this? Do we not? So it's just it is really curious timing, and we're never going to know from the press release. But I think it's definitely something to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, what are you up to next week?
Still getting through 7.2. I'm really sad seeing everyone talking about 7.3 and saying how they don't like it, because 7.2 is so much fun.
It is.
I'm enjoying it so much. It's some of the best story content they've ever released. The fights are difficult, but there's solutions. You can play into some nodes. There's some interesting interactions. Being able to choose which boss you want to fight. They did so much right there.
Yeah, I did enjoy 7.2, and it's just for me when I went through 7.3, I was just like, do you know what? I'm getting a bit bored of this. But I think it just goes to too much reading and just not enough kind of like just go grind, which is a thing. But yeah, I'm going to be doing the same. I'm going to try and 100% 7.2. I need to do the Gwendmaster boss again. I don't want to go back to it until I have a strong inverted controls immune champion, just because I can't do the first part particularly well. So I need to.
Yeah.
I have a weakness, and I need to
no
find
inverted
strength.
controls.
Exactly. Yeah. I just that's just good. If I have to use Mr. Sinister, 565, 200 signature, and I'm going to make that, then I have to do that. That's my own way of getting around it. I'm not interested with relearning the fight because I need to. I just need to kind of get. If I get through that first phase stuff, like I know what I'm doing and I can take it from there. But
Gotcha.
yeah. Make your weakness your strength or whatever. In any case, that has been a podcast, a very important special one to deep dive the situation of realm passing. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next episode. Cheers, everybody. Bye.